Exactly how I feel. Exactly how I feel. Good afternoon, friends and family. Thank you for joining us here in the Sky Lounge for another All Access Pass. Broken record. I say it every time because I get to say it every time. I get to talk to the legends, the icons, the guys and gals that were there. And today I am joined by one of the all-time greatest groups to ever hit a stage, to ever grace the radio airwaves, and of course be played in houses and cars all across the world. Please help me welcoming Kansas. We got a whole bunch of guys up here, so I'm going to say their name and they're going to wave at you so you know who is who in this fantastic lineup, and I'm going to save the man to my right for the end. By raise of hand, been with them for over 20 years, featured in and out, not started with them as Phil's drum tech, and is now the featured drummer with the touring band. Give it up for Eric Holmquist. Correct me at any point I get any of these wrong, please, gentlemen. The newest member of the band, featured on guitar, the fabulous Scott Bernard, is with us. With the group since 2024, I believe, playing bass and vocals, Mr. Dan McGowan is with us. The Jimi Hendrix of the violin. Give it up for Joe Deninzon. Been with the group since 2023. Since 2018 on keyboard and vocals, Mr. Tom Brislin. With the group since 2016 and playing the lead guitar. Give it up for Zak Rizvi. Lead vocals and keyboards all the way back since 2014. The one and only Mr. Ronnie Platt. And the gentleman I'm sitting next to is one of the few that started it all. An original member, all the way back from the beginning in the year. Been with the band from start to finish. My friends, let's make as much noise as we can for an absolute musical god. Give it up for Richard Williams. It is a crying shame that no one likes you guys. I wish we had a more live audience here for you. I apologize. Obviously, the Rock and Romance cruise itself, this is our 9th one of these. And I know we got a lot of folks in here who have been on almost 9, if not 9, with us. And you have been a name that we've been asked for and we've been chasing for years and years and years. So I get to say, first and foremost, truly and humbly, thank you for being with us on this cruise. Thank you. So, Mr. Williams, I'm going to start with you, if you'd be so kind, sir. Let's go back to the good old days. You and some of the guys, Topeka, Kansas, the mix-up of two really... Would you classify the bands White Clover and Saratoga? Were you rivals, or were you just bands playing at the same time in the same area?
Well, White Clover, that's a story in itself that had a lot of mutations. But I joined them and rejoined them in '69. And we went to New Orleans for late '69, early '70. We were living there for about 9 months, playing in the French Quarter. We were the first band that was on the stage at the famous warehouse that was just built. The first show coming in was, well, we saw Chicago there with their first album, which was incredible. But the first band coming in was the Grateful Dead. And so they had us up on stage, just being, a local band, to test the PA system, etc.
That's what you use the local bands for, you understand.
Well, we got free tickets for every show after that, so that it was
happy to do it, I assume, yeah.
But so they did 2 shows, and after the second show, we all went home. We had hippie commune style band house with everybody on earth in New Orleans living there. So we're sitting in the kitchen, and one of these girls that kind of are the house mom living with us, we're going, where is she? You know, and finally she came walking up. We're sitting in the kitchen. She walks in with Jerry Garcia, and what do you say? And he sits down with us at the kitchen table, and we just, what's funny about band guys is, if I'm around bankers and lawyers and hanging around the country club, I have nothing in common. But you put me one-on-one with anybody in a band, and we'll talk gear and stupid stories forever, you know. And so a conversation with Jerry Garcia was very easy. And we talked and talked and talked all night. And it was finally time to take him back to where he was staying in the French Quarter. So we got on our Volkswagen van that we haul our equipment in, no seats. So Jerry sat up front and I slid over in the back. And we dropped him off at his hotel. And the next morning in the newspaper we read Grateful Dead busted. And you know, they're busted on Bourbon Street. Knocked down like a rolling pin. The song Truckin' was written about that night. And I'm the guy that dropped him off at the hotel. And so I always wanted to ask him, did he ever equate? If you look in Wikipedia, it will say that he went to some local hippies' houses. I'm from Kansas, I was never a hippie.
Nor a local.
But I always wondered if he ever equated that night, and those guys became Kansas. I never ever saw him again. But it was, you know, interesting question.
That would be, like you said though, when you sit with another musician and you talk stories, you know, you tell some stories and you share some war stories and whatnot. I feel like, and you could answer this probably, you probably have a pretty good idea who's got a true feel for music, who's been there, who's been in it, who's going to hopefully make something of themselves versus someone who's just kind of a tourist into the musical world.
You can kind of tell that by just by watching the band.
Sure.
You know, somebody's complaining, whining, you know, from rehearsing too much to not wanting to do this. You know,
Take note, boys. Take note.
You know, wanting to go home. You know, I'm tired. What did I sign up for? All of those kind of questions.
Is this still pointed to anyone else on the stage right now?
I'm not sending any secret messages, but this was what I was born to do before I even had a guitar. Topeka, Kansas, in the Midwest back in the early '60s was actually extremely musical, but it was a different scene. It was like old school buses with these 10-piece horn bands playing Motown and all that kind of stuff, and they're all doing steps, and it was all these soul reviews, and it was fantastic. But I was I was just hearing about it, hearing the ads on the radio for the Fabulous Flippers at the Holly Hawk Ballroom in Hatfield, Minnesota, and I was just wondering, what must that be like to be out just scorching the earth with a bunch of your buddies? And that it called me. It says, it's like a little boy went to the circus and decided he was going to join. And so for that moment, I knew this was what I was built to do. And so none of this is really that much of a surprise to me, because I've just taken the next positive step by step, towards what I always wanted to be. And just in Kansas, this is my 52nd year. And
so you're still a rookie, okay?
But the first band I was ever in was with Phil Ehart, the original Kansas drummer. And so it's just, I'm kind of dumb that it worked out. Just keep doing what you're meant to be, follow your heart, follow your passion, and at least you'll be happy, you know.
But I think when you say you're dumb but it worked out, I think there's a lot of different life resumes, and I think you can know a little about a lot, or you can know a lot about a little. So someone who knows a lot about a little may appear unintelligent or dumb. I know you're joking around, but you know more about your lane than most people will ever. You've forgotten more about your lane than most people will ever learn. So I would not call you dumb as much as I would say you're a savant in this. I mean,
you make a good point. But
take the accolade, sir.
When I say I'm also kind of stupid, my wife would agree.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move around a little bit. I know, Rich, I want to talk to you a little bit more, obviously, for all the obvious reasons, but let's bounce around. Ronnie, I know you've been in the group since about 2014, if I'm not mistaken, so you've got quite a long road here in Kansas. Two questions for you. One, let's talk about how you got in the group. How did your introduction to Kansas happen?
It was so strange because a friend of mine, a longtime fan, longtime friend, Dina Olson, who happens to be Dennis DeYoung's niece, she knew just what a crazy Kansas fan I was, and I can back that up because I have YouTube video of my cover bands from the 80s doing not only Point of No Return and Wayward Son, but deep cut Kansas songs. I was a hardcore Kansas fan. And she texted me one day with Steve's announcement of his retirement. And usually when you see that in public, you think to yourself, oh, they got to be working with someone, you know? I mean, they're in the middle of a tour. And just on a whim, I messaged this guy. Say, hey, we were friends on Facebook, and Rich and I, we knew each other because I was the lead singer of Shooting Star, a band Shooting Star. Oh, Shooting Star fans? From 2007 to 2011, and Shooting Star did a couple shows with Kansas, and just on a whim, I went over to the computer and I wrote, Rich, Ronnie Platt from Shooting Star, give me some consideration. Never expecting to hear from Rich. And the very next day, come home from work from driving my 18-wheeler around the beautiful streets of Chicago.
Sounds delightful.
Right. And, you know, I opened up my messages and, hey, Ronnie, it's Rich. We're about to go on stage in Houston. If you get this within the next 90 minutes, give me a call. What?
Turn that 18-wheeler right around and just next up.
I'm hanging in front of that air horn like a chimpanzee. So, but no, I sent that message on a Wednesday. Rich sent me his message on Thursday. He said, "Can Phil call you tomorrow?" What am I going to say? No. And I talked to Phil on Friday, and he said, "Can we fly you to Atlanta on Monday to meet with us? And you're not coming to sing. We've seen you in Shooting Star. We've seen your YouTube stuff. We know you could sing your ass off. We just want to know if you're a nice guy to make sure you don't have LSD. For those of you who don't know what LSD is, it's lead singer disease."
It's a real thing. It's a very real thing.
Oh, it's a real thing.
It's
a real thing. And I ended up flying to Atlanta to meet with Rich and Phil on Monday, and we had almost a 4-hour meeting, of which maybe the first 5 minutes maybe was business. The next 3 hours was telling stories and just laughing our butts off and having a good time. And I went back home to Chicago, went to work the next day, opened up my messages at one of my customers, and there's a message from Phil Leahart. "Congrats. You got the job. Let's get to work." And I thought to myself, if I could make this last for 2 years, this would be great. 3 years. 12 years later, folks, I'm still here. So, but that's how I just, and it's been wild ever since. It's been, for me, it's still surreal to walk out every show, every stage. It's surreal to me. And I want to say this, I belong in a very unique group. Of course, my heart goes out to the DiCarlo family. Tommy DiCarlo just passed away from Boston. But my group, Tommy taking over for Boston, Kelly Hansen, who spent years in Foreigner, Arnell with Journey. I'm in a very tight group of guys. But I always said I would challenge the rest of those guys if they were as big a fan as the band they're singing for, as I am of Kansas, and always have been, and can prove it.
Fantastic. Great story. Now, and I have a follow-up for you. You entered a band, obviously, that has the catalog that they have.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Over the past, you're only, I know you were hoping for 2 or 3 years. Here you are over a decade later. Do you feel like, how do I word this? Have you made the catalog come to you a little bit, or do you still feel like you carry the weight of what it was, if that question makes sense? Have you started to personalize it for yourself versus carrying the weight and trying to be note for note?
That's one thing that Rich and Phil have never micromanaged me. I think they just really, right out of the box, realized what a huge Kansas fan I was, and still am. And I paid tribute to, Steve. I attribute the development of my voice from listening to my inspirations. Steve Walsh, Steve Perry, Lou Graham, John Anderson from Yes, Brad Delp from Boston. These are guys that just had bizarre talent, and I owe it to them because I was trying to emulate them, and develop my voice. Again, what gave me really an unfair advantage was I've been such an insane Kansas fan. Kansas is a band that you don't put on the album and listen to 1 or 2 songs. You put the album on, you listen to the entire album, then you flip it and you listen to it again. And that's what I did. That's what I did. So, I really had a way head start of the music, even before I joined the band, and I think that's what made the transition so easy, and us getting, we went on the road fast. And another thing, when I met with Phil and Rich, that first meeting, they told me that they wanted to do 45 to 60 shows a year. My first full year, 2015 in Kansas, we did 98 shows. And then we went right into the studio, recorded the Prelude Implicit. That was a month and a half in the studio. Went right from the studio back on the road and did 99 shows in 16. Do you remember? We will work you like a dog.
Didn't want to scare you away with the truth.
45 shows. Yeah, you didn't see the ×2 at the end of the 45 show. Interestingly, too, I think, what a lot of folks don't recognize is, you hear 90 shows in a year, and you think, well, that's not terrible. What you don't take into consideration is the show, and please correct me, but as I've come to understand in this industry, the show is the easy part. It's the travel, it's the loading, it's the loadout, it's the line checks, it's the
Yes, it's the running joke of that we don't get paid to play, we get paid to travel. Because the travel is the tough part.
So moving around a little bit, I want to give everyone a shot here. Let's go to Zak. Zak, talk about how you joined. Yeah, good morning. Talk about how you joined the group, good sir.
Well, my story is a lot like Ronnie's because I didn't know these guys. I was nobody. I ran a recording studio in New Jersey. This would be back in '99, and I had a band called Forefront, and we made a record that fell into the hands of a guy who was Phil Ehart's drum rep at Yamaha. And he became a huge fan of the record, and so I wrote him a letter. I said, is there any way I can meet Kansas? So he set it up for me, and I managed to get hold of Phil's info. And one day I wrote Phil a letter, just like you, cold, you know. Hi, I'm so-and-so. He had no idea who I was. Like, this is what I do. I write music. I have a studio. I'd love to be the sixth member of Kansas because they were a five-piece at the time. And that evening he called me back. It was unbelievable. I was in my studio and the phone rang and voice on the other end said, can I talk to Zach? And I said, sure, who is this? He said, it's Phil Ehart. And I said, no, it's not. I said, no, it's not. So he had to prove it. So anyway, it was him. And, you know, obviously I didn't join the band in 2001. This all happened in 2001. But I started writing songs for Kansas, even though they had no recording plans. And I would send them to Phil, and he liked them. And then he introduced me to Jeff Blixman, who was the producer of many of the great albums that they made in the 70s. And Jeff hired me, and I worked for him for 6 years and got to know the band better. And then the band became a six-piece again, and I gave up hope because I figured there's six guys again. And then, amazingly, the next year I got a call from them saying, would you like to produce the first album in 15 years? I was like,
Let me think.
What do you do, right? So that's it. I produced the record. I wrote a bunch of songs for it. I wasn't supposed to be in the band, but we all got on so well in the studio that, to my shock, one day during the recording, Phil took me outside and said, hey, we want you to come aboard. You want to be the member of the band? I literally freaked out. He said, take a couple of days and think about it. I said, no. I mean,
You will not give me time to change my mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. So,
I was right there in that conversation, and me and Phil were going, man, Zach is really writing all kinds of great stuff, and somebody's going to snatch him up. And we have no idea how deep his river of music is going to be. We need to get him in the band, and so we said, Zach, come out and talk with us in the parking lot. And Zach thought we were going to fire him.
I did.
He thought he was going to get whacked right there in the parking
Because
lot.
Rich, we had a problem with the headphones the night before, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so fired. You know, I got the finger, come on.
And so it was like, Zach, would you like to join the band? Yes! There was no thought of anything else. He answered so fast it actually startled me.
What you didn't know is there was tons of thought. It had just been everything leading up to that point that the thought had been going through. Now, as lead guitar, you've got heavy shoes there, playing guitar.
Well, it's a very co-lead thing. I mean, Scott and I are, we split, Rich and I always split everything, which was always really great about it. I mean, it was a lot of pressure.
As a co-lead guitar, you have a lot of pressure, though, to play. I mean, again, same thing I asked Ronnie, that's a monster catalog with some there's a lot going on in a Kansas song.
Sure is.
How many times have we said to each other, or I've said to you, this would be a lot easier if we joined Cheap Trick.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody remember when we had Cheap Trick? I concur.
I know Rick and Robin, they're very nice.
They're great. They're great guys. Zach, you probably had to, were you already in your head there? You'd already done it, you knew it cold, or did you have some shedding to get
I had some shedding to do, yeah. But I do remember the first time I ever played a guitar solo, and I ran out front and I was playing, and I was like, holy crap, it's Kansas. It's backing me up. So that's how I got it. It was an amazing thing.
All right, Tom, you're next on the list because you've been since 2018. Tom, you're up. Keyboards, vocals, all the fun stuff. Let's talk about how you got in the group first.
I was in a group called The Sea Within, which was a prog rock band that happened to be on the same label as Kansas. You liked it, thank you.
You have a fan. Yeah. Singular, but it's
That's who bought it, man, right there.
That's who bought it.
That's who bought it. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
But prior to that group, I'd actually gotten my start in touring with classic rock artists. When I was 24, I became Meatloaf's piano player. And I worked with him for a few years, and through that, I got called to play with Yes for a year, and on their symphonic tour in 2001. And that kind of opened up this portal to any rock that had progressive elements in it, and would work with other groups throughout the year, which led to this See Within project. Happened to be on the same label as Kansas, and it was just, I think the record had just come out, but it was the head of our label who recommended me to Phil and Richard when they told me they needed a keyboard player. So I got an unexpected phone call from Phil saying, like, we'd like you to join the band, that was a new kind of element. Even though I had played for these groups in the past, they wanted me to be a member of the group and to contribute.
Did you think to yourself Cheap Trick would have been a lot easier?
Oh, you know it. Yeah. We're not playing Moni. But I had a few weeks to get it together, and they were in the midst of the Point of No Return anniversary tour. And there was a lot of deep music in that, especially in the keyboard department, so I had my work cut out for me. But I had also asked if I would be invited to the songwriting part of the band because they were making a new album. And they said, well, if we like it, you can. So I was getting to work learning the vast catalog of Kansas music and also writing some new music and lyrics for the group. So 2019 was the first full-time year for me, and it was just, I was living, eating, and breathing Kansas music, and it was pretty incredible to get involved at that point.
Having played with all of the megastars that you have, was it, were you a lifelong Kansas fan as well? Was this something you were, or was this, I don't mean to be rude, but was it, oh, that's cool? Or was it more of was it more of a Zak and Ronnie moment?
No, it was pretty intense, because this was one of the groups that I was raised on, essentially. The good stuff, thanks to my sister's record collection, and the 70s rock, and that was my introduction to music, and strangely for me, similar to what Richard said about just knowing that I wanted to do this, was that, since I was a little kid, I was just all about music and learning the piano and writing songs and being in a band. I just thought the concept of a band was the coolest thing ever, this team of superheroes, and each of them had their own thing that they did. And just was trying to form a band or join a band since I was 10 years old, essentially. And so I did not expect this call to come because I didn't think that opportunity would happen. But when I got the call to join Kansas, it was a no-brainer.
Now, this whole time, the back row has been thinking we're not going to go to them, but we certainly are. Let's talk about the Hendrix of the violin in the back. Let's talk to Joe. Joe, you've been in the group on rhythm guitar and violin since 2023. Tell us a little bit about how you got in the group, Joe.
So I knew Tom for a bunch of years. We both live in New Jersey, and in and around New Jersey in the house. So in and around New Jersey, there's a pretty healthy progressive rock community, and I've had a band for many years called Stratospherius, where I sing and play electric violin. I've seen Tom perform with his band, opening for Adrian Belew and other artists, and we would hang out on Cruise to the Edge, and we traveled in the same circles. We both played in Renaissance different times. So in 2023, it was a crazy night because I was cutting a salad, and I was trying to cut a tomato, and I sliced this finger almost in half. It was like a tea kettle opening up. So I was in the ER getting stitches, and I get a text from Tom, who I hadn't heard from in a while. Can you call me when you have a moment? I'm like, what could this be about? You just had this gut feeling that this is something big. I'm like, oh my God, ow, I'm getting stitches. So on the way home from the ER, I called Tom, and he goes, well, David Ragsdale has some issues that might prevent him from touring, and we need a backup person in case he can't tour. Would you be interested in checking out the music? And I thought, oh my God, of course. So he said, send me some videos of your band or anything you've done that I can send to Phil Ehart and Rich. So I sent him 2 Stratospherius videos. The next day, I got a call from Phil, and we talked for an hour. He really liked what I did, and we really hit it off. And he was practically offering me the gig but it was like 3 months of learn all this music for the 50th anniversary tour, but we're going to try to see if David can tour, because he's been in the Kansas family for 30 years, obviously, and I have the deepest respect for him. So it was kind of a lot of, an emotional and mental roller coaster, because I had to learn all this hard music. Plus, I couldn't practice it because of my fingers, so it was all mental work, memorizing and kind of transcribing the stuff. So, I got the call in February, and in May, I was offered the job officially, and then I flew down to Macon, met the whole band, and we rehearsed the 50th anniversary tour. It's been an amazing dream. I'm grateful every day for this experience.
Thank you for sharing, sir. Before we go to the next couple of guys, Rich, question for you. The inclusion of the violin, it's been done, but you guys made it special. Talk about how and why the violin became such a prominent instrument in the Kansas collection.
I think, like early Moody Blues, we had a flute player. So that's something a little different. We were big Jethro Tull fans. And, enter the flute. And we knew Robbie. He was from Lawrence, Kansas, 20 miles from Topeka. And he was in a band, and some of us went over to see him. He was very entertaining, very did violin in a rock band. We had no interest in being a fiddle band. And we didn't want it to just be little lines in the background. We wanted to integrate it, just like you would have a voice with guitar, synthesizer, or like with Jethro Tull, flute, to make it fit in more of a prog vein. And so we gave it a shot, and from the get-go, it slid right into. We've always been a bit pretty classical sounding, a lot of big epic parts that really lend itself to violin, and it was such a natural fit. And that's kind of how we went. When the record company came to see us, the boys from New York, they were. I think that's where the only, there's a bunch of mutts from Kansas, but I am a fan of violin playing, and that kind of kicked the door down for us with Don Kirshner. It was the fact that what was different about us was we had a violin, and it really worked out.
Well, I think we all appreciate that you guys took that lead. No one more than Joe.
The first album, we got out on this circuit. We were doing little cameos in small little clubs everywhere, and we were at the bottom line in New York, but we were in Nashville, and they had these little place cards on all the tables, and it was coming soon, Kansas, a fiddle band. And I mean, it just blew our heads off. No. You got to get rid of all of these. We are not a fiddle band. And when we showed up, they really didn't know what we were. We were not the typical new Nashville band.
It's and for you, Joe, you've obviously played with a lot of different people. You've got a monster resume as well. What's it like slotting into Kansas with what you do?
Well, I was hustling for 25 years, playing every gig under the sun, and I got to work with The Who and with Richie Blackmore and Peter Criss from Kiss, and a long list of Springsteen, a long list of people. But a lot of times I was in a string section, as a backup musician. And one of the trepidations for me was I'm going into a 50-year history and legacy of violin playing. This is the template for rock violin. Anytime someone thinks of rock violin, they compare you to Kansas. So, and I was worried if the fans would accept me. So my go-to was I'm going to try to honor Robbie and David's legacy and really learn their parts and try to honor the sound of the music and not mess with the formula too much and gradually bring my own vibe into it, you know, and walk that fine line without completely changing what the fans are used to hearing. So it was a relief because the fans embraced me with open arms, and it's been a great ride so far.
Well, you're still in the group, so you got it right. All right, Dan, you're up next. You've been in the group since 2024 on bass and vocals. Talk to us a little bit about how you got into Kansas, sir.
So I initially was subbing in for Billy Greer, who was the bass player for 40 years. And so that came from my knowing Tom Brislin. Me and Tom go way back. He actually...
Tom's like a good guy to know. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
He's
Be Tom's friend. It's
a good connection. Yeah. But I had played with Tom in a few bands in the past, and we had always maintained a good friendship. We're both kind of nerdy, and
Own it.
he gets all my weird, comic book references that nobody else in the band does. So he had reached out to me and said, "Hey, Dan, are you? Would you be potentially interested in filling in for bass in the band?" I was like, "Well, obviously." He said, "You have about 2 weeks to learn the whole thing. It's about 2 hours of music. It's Kansas progressive
Who
rock."
needs sleep?
Right.
Overrated.
And so I just said, "Of course, yes, I will do that." And so luckily I was working 2 jobs at the time where I was kind of making my own schedule. And
I was going to say, luckily I was working 2 jobs.
Yeah, right? Sure, yeah, for real. But I was able to just lock myself in the basement for 2 weeks and learn all the material. But I still didn't have the gig. I was still just auditioning, Tom was like, this is 2 weeks to audition. And so after about a week or so of filming myself in my basement, going insane trying to learn Icarus 2 and The Pinnacle and these crazy prog rock epics, and sending the videos to Tom, I got the call and said, "Yeah, you're our guy." And
Would have been easier if you joined Cheap Trick.
I'm here for it.
But then I subbed in for Billy for a couple of months, and then Billy came back for a few months, and then retired pretty soon after that, and they offered me the gig full time, and now here I am.
Here you are.
Yeah.
On a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean.
But not only is he a great bass player, he's got the voice of an angel. This guy can sing.
Oh, go on.
Tell me more. Eric, I'm going to save you for last. Scott, you are the newest member. Tell us, how'd you get in here?
Well, I got a call from Cheap Trick.
Well played, sir. Very well played, sir.
I'm out of here, Jerry.
They haven't been here for years. They're fine.
Well, I knew Tom a little bit. Here we go again.
Here we go again. There's a guy to know.
I met him, I think it was 2014. I was playing with Kenny Loggins. I've been with him for like 18 years. Footloose man, Deninzon guy. And man, he called me. I mean, we met then, and we kind of kept in touch, just here and there. He called me, I don't know, 22, I think it was, 20, something like that. And he just said, "Hey, would you be interested in subbing for Rich?" And I said, "Dude, you have no idea how interested I am in this." Everybody, I was the biggest Kansas fan when I was a kid. I mean, that was my first concert.
Your first concert.
Yeah, Audio Visions, man.
How cool.
I'm telling you, man, everyone who knows me knows I'm a Kansas nut. And I was over the moon about just kind of having anything to do with it, you know what I mean? I mean, I pretended to be in Kansas when I was 9. Seriously. My first amp I bought was because Rich had PV MX amps, and I saw him, and I'm like, I gotta get that amp.
Clearly.
So, no, he doesn't. So anyway, fast forward, I don't know however long after that, when they called me to come in and do a sub for 'em, and it was just, picture your favorite band ever, and then being asked to be a part of it. It's just mind-blowing. It really is. And so...
Yeah, I know.
Me too.
Right.
Me too.
And so we just, just to carry the parts that is just in my head, man. I'm just such a fan. Such an honor to be a part of this and carry on the legacy. It's just mind-blowing, for sure.
Thank you for sharing, sir. And last but not least, Eric, I think you have a fascinating story, so I saved you for last. Forgive me for doing so. Started as the drum tech.
I did.
Is that correct?
With Cheap Trick.
With Cheap Trick.
With Cheap Trick, yeah. I left Cheap Trick when I was 7. And
It got too easy. At 7, it got too easy. You had to go someplace where you could. Yeah.
I was blessed with wonderful, wonderful parents. And Kansas, Styx, the Dixie Dregs, yes, that's what I grew up listening to. My dad was in a band with Ronnie, a Yes tribute band. I've known Ronnie since 5 or 6 years old.
The fruit don't fall far from the tree, folks, because his father, phenomenal drummer.
Thank you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how old does that make you feel, Ronnie?
Well, let me tell you this. Right now, I have a 55-gallon drum of Geritol being delivered to my room right now.
I was wondering why we had to order that ahead of time. Continue.
So my parents would bring me to, 20 Kansas, 30 Kansas concerts a year. Wow. And I was always that little kid in the front row, and I have red hair and freckles, and I'm pale, so it's not hard to miss me.
You haven't changed.
And I became friends with these guys. These guys were my heroes, and I've known Richard since I was 10 years old. Phil Ehart, Steve Walsh, all those guys. And I even knew the crew back then. All the crew guys were good friends because I would see them, 50 times, sometimes a year. So when I got the opportunity, the original drum tech, his name was John Thompson. He decided to retire. He was, OG guy. He decided to retire, and they called me and asked me if I wanted the job. And to me, it was, there was nothing to think about. All I have known musically my entire life has been Kansas. I would play the drums in my basement to Kansas albums all day long. And I knew these guys, so when I got the gig, it was as easy as anything I've ever done. I walked in and I started working with my friends again. And then 20 years of being the drum tech. I knew all the original guys. I've been lucky enough to work with all of them. All the ups and downs through many, many, many years. And I'm still happy that the music is still here. We're all still here. And we're looking forward to continuing this thing for many, many, many more years. As long as you guys are with us, yeah? All right.
Eric, I'm going to direct this question at you. Everyone said the same thing, that we've been a fan of Kansas since we were kids. We've loved Kansas since we were young.
I have a tattoo to prove it.
But the reason I'm coming to you is you are clearly a bigger fan than the other guys. Clearly. And this may seem pedantic, and I don't mean this to sound the way it is. Why Kansas? Like, what is it about Kansas that makes all of you, and I'm gonna have you answer for everybody by answering for yourself.
Sure.
Why such an affinity?
As a drummer, I know this is gonna sound weird, but he said all of us.
You're answering for everybody.
Well, for me, it was, as a drummer, people are going to think Phil Ehart. Phil Ehart was absolutely one of my favorite drummers. But the thing that really drew me to Kansas was Steve Walsh's voice. Somebody who could tell a story like that with that much soul and that much range. He was bluesy, he was rock and roll. Everything about his voice just captivated me. And then when I went to see him, and I went to see how energetic he was and how he can command an audience and do his headstands and stuff, I was even more enamored. And then I became friends with the guy, which was over the moon. So for me, it was Steve Walsh's voice, but the music had to be there, obviously, as well.
And Rich, what's it like as a founding member to sit here with these monsters, individual musical monster is a term in the industry that you use for someone who is, okay, just to be clear, I'm not insulting anyone, I'm actually complimenting them. You're sitting on stage with none of the other originals, but monsters in their own right, and they're all telling basically the same story. I've loved Kansas since I was a kid. I've loved Kansas, I love Kansas, I love Kansas. What does that mean to you to hear?
It's very confirming because I love Kansas.
Well played, sir. Well played.
And again, this is it's just a trail I've followed. And people come, people go, and it's always sad, when someone has to leave or they decide to leave. But I don't know if it's from my upbringing, coming from the Midwest, that Phil and I just don't know how to quit. I don't know how to give up. And just whatever has been thrown at us, it's like, okay, what's the plan? Well, I got this guy in my back pocket. I've been hearing singing on watching on YouTube, and he's in this band. We need to give him a call. That was Ronnie. I mean, it's a survival to continue as long as I can, us going. This has been the dream of a lifetime, the best job in the world. I recommend it to any of you.
It's never too late. You might get a call if you're a fan of Kansas. You never know. Do you know Tom? You might want to get to know him.
Get to know me, folks.
Yeah.
It's not too late because I joined the band at age 52.
Some of them said it's still too late, so just for the
I'm
record.
64, folks.
God bless you. Rich, you made a comment to me backstage that I thought was really beautiful. I asked you about the makeup of the band currently, and compared to the makeup of the band in its origin. And you said one of the things you guys always pushed for was good people that fit together. And so it's not just musical, you're looking for good humans as well, it sounds like.
Oh, that's usually the main test is if somebody comes into our view, we know they can perform the gig, they're in that upper echelon. So really it's a personality test. It's like, can you get along? Because that's really the most important piece of a band is the cohesive unity of all just liking each other. And because, like Ronnie said, the travel is something else. And you're forced to be away from your home, loved ones, your cat, or whatever. And
Okay, who's got the cat?
I've got two.
Okay, there we go.
And it's very important in all that through the stress and strain of travel. And 3 to 4 gigs in a row sometimes. That you're all compatible. You're all on the same page. And so that's probably as important as anything. And like with Scott, Tom had met when he met him several years ago, and he brought him up to me, and I started checking out Scott Bernard, and I thought, I saw him actually playing a Kansas thing on YouTube. So that fucking guy plays it better than I do.
Damn him!
And,
Get him in the band.
But being the team player, I wanted my understudy and a guy in the band that I could aspire to be. I mean, he's such a tremendous player. I could practice every day the rest of my life and wouldn't be as good as Scott. And he's a fantastic replacement for me.
Eric, can you check Scott's pulse, please, to see if... I know we got to get you guys out of here, so Rich, I'd like to ask you one final question. Looking back from then to now, are you still having as much fun on stage as you did?
Once you're on stage, yes, but I was, the first gig I ever did was with Phil. We got $20 and played in this, our local newspaper boy's basement. And there was about 8 people there. And I was...
$20 isn't bad for 8 people. That's not terrible.
No, well, actually, there was only 4 of us in the band, so we got $5 a piece.
Oh, okay. I stand down, sir.
And back then, $5 went a long way. That would buy you about a carton of cigarettes almost back then. But a lot of artists have this issue. I've never gotten over stage fright. Always have had it. Some people have it so bad they're vomiting or whatever. And for me, and Phil and I talked about this for 50 years. We call it the pre-gigs, where before the show, you get butterflies in your stomach and you're might be a little snappy.
Nobody talk to Rich before the show, please. Give the man space.
And that's what we've been doing for quite a while now, is we rehearse backstage, really right up until showtime. So it gives you a chance to relax, loosen up,
Pre-gigs.
go through a few things, and that is fun. But before that, you just show up and you're just kind of worrying about all the things that could go wrong. You know, the musician, everybody has their own nightmares of what that could be. But then the lights go down, you step on stage, 1, 2, 3, 4, it starts and it all goes away. But that entire day before, you're shitting your pants. So,
Well, seeing as you play tomorrow, that makes sense now how it smells up here.
yeah, everybody leave me alone tomorrow.
Truly and honestly, I cannot thank all of you enough for taking not only the time to be on the cruise, but taking some time to give all of us a little insight into who you are, how you got in the band, and just how phenomenal and amazing of a band this truly is. My friends and family, as much noise as we can make for the iconic